Evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WM32 Football Podcast. Happy Mother's Day to all of those mothers, the football mums that have spent their weekends watching their boys and girls playing football up and down the country. But getting back to tonight, have a fabulous guest on for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This is somebody who has had it a little bit rough, it's fair to say, over the last few years supporting his team. But I am absolutely delighted to welcome a former teammate of mine in Kris, Kris Love, who's going to be talking all things QPR with us tonight. Kris, Lovey, great to have you on, my man. How are you?
Yes, mate. Thank you for joining or having me, should I say? Yeah, I'm good, mate. I think teammate is a bit of a a loose word. It was more running around on a Saturday and having a beer after, wasn't it? But no, yeah, it's good. I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. If it's at least I'm not Antonio Conte. I haven't, called everybody out, including the kitchen staff, just yet. But yeah, I know you used to do my running for me, so I am forever grateful for you for doing that. And listen, boys and girls, ladies and gents, if you do have a question for Lovey, please get it in the comments, and we'll go through them a little bit later. So, Lovey, as we mentioned, you are a massive QPR fan. As I think I put on Twitter, the Adel Taarabt Appreciation Society will be in full flow tonight. But how long have you supported the Mighty R's, and where does your love and association come? Because it's a bit of a strange kind of club, I would say, to support from someone from your area.
Yeah, it really is. I can't really remember why I started supporting QPR. I really can't. It's probably a question I ask myself all the time of why did I bother? But my dad was an Arsenal fan. His dad was a Tottenham fan, so it was a bit of a rivalry there. It was really odd, and I never really fancied supporting like a big club. And I remember, I think like I was about 8 or 9. I came downstairs one day and said to my dad, starting to support QPR, and he kind of looked at me. I was like, what? I was like, there might be something. I think the name stuck out for me. It was something different, wasn't it? Like 3 letters and the kit and stuff. So I kind of started supporting them and I've been there ever since. I think I guess you tend to find your club, don't you, and where you belong to a certain degree. And yeah, the QPR unfortunately is the club that I've chosen and will continue to support in the future.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting that. I thought you might have seen sense, at least with one person in your family, on the right side of North London, but it wasn't to be. It wasn't to be, unfortunately.
No, but my missus is a Spurs fan, so I can't quite escape them. I think my dad was a little bit disappointed. Really, I wasn't an Arsenal fan, but it was either that or Man United. So I was like, no, I'm not. I've seen the light. So
definitely. But no, really interesting story, because, like I say, you are from sort of Northamptonshire and out that way. So yeah, to get somebody who is from out that way that is a QPR fan, like I said, is a little bit earlier, is a little bit strange. But no, credit to you for not supporting a team that is necessarily fashionable. And I bet you probably got loads of stick when you were younger, especially in the playground from all your mates at school.
Yeah, and that stick continues to. Every time someone asks me, "Oh, who do you support?" and I say, "Oh, QPR," they kind of give me a look as if to say, "What? What did you do that for?" So I'm kind of used to that look. But you fall in love with your club, don't you? And I've fallen in love with a basket case of a football club.
No, absolutely brilliant. And Lovely, we're going to go right the way back to the first game that you went to as a fan of QPR. Do you have any memories of that day and what it was like, going to the ground and
yeah,
so
I think the first game we went to Loftus Road, and we lost to 1-0 to Sheffield United. I think it was, I can't even remember when it was, the date or whatever, but I remember it being a terrible game. And I think so living in the area, we went to watch Russian and Diamonds a little bit. So we'd only sort of been to conference ground. So like going to QPR, my head was blown when it was like, oh, what a massive stadium. It's obviously not. But I think the feeling of walking through the concourse and up through the stands and sitting in the lower loft, is was a special feeling, and that you can't beat the first time you see your home ground, can you? I think the earlier memory than that was I was in the Rushden and Diamonds home end when they drew 3-3 with QPR. Gareth Ainsworth scored those 2 stunning goals. And I remember sitting in the Diamonds end, seeing all the QPR fans go crazy, and Gareth Ainsworth scored 2 of the best goals you'll ever see in your life. So I think that was my earliest memory of QPR. But then, like I said, obviously going to Loftus Road is a special place. I love going down. I don't go down as much as I should do, really. But you kind of can't help getting excited every time you go down and sitting in the. I sit in the LSE Road stand now, but the lower loft was where I used to sit.
Brilliant. No, and just for people that might not be aware of geographics and the geography of Loftus Road, the lower loft, is that a stand behind the goal?
Yeah, so that's the home end. Where we kick second half, and then LSE Road is a stand opposite the dugout.
Okay, yeah. So where the gantry is.
Yeah, so we sort of sit right on the halfway line, so you can sort of see the tunnel. And then obviously you've got like the Q block, which is the rascal corner bit where all the diehards go. So, or the R block, I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, the LSE Road is the best. It's where we go now because it's the best view. Quite nice sitting in the halfway line, I think, and seeing all the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. You certainly do get a better view of the game from halfway line. I can vouch for that, sitting or having sat in a halfway line spot for a few games. And lovely, when you do go to games at the mighty QPR at Loftus Road, who do you go with? Is it just yourself? Is there a few mates that you go with? I know you mentioned your dad is a gooner, so I'm assuming he wouldn't be going with you.
No, I'll drag him along.
Fair enough.
He quite enjoyed. I think he struggles to obviously get Arsenal tickets, even more so now they're flying. So he'll often come with me. Yeah, he'll often come with me and watch them. My uncle as well he's from Northamptonshire, but he's a Leeds fan, but he doesn't really follow Leeds religiously, so he'll often come with me. And I've tried a couple of times to bring my missus along. And to be fair, she quite enjoys it, but I think Tottenham are her club. So, yeah, and there's like a couple of mates I used to play football with that I meet down at QPR season ticket. So we always go down and have a beer after. So, yeah, it's a nice little crack. It's a good group, and yeah, like I said, it's a special day, isn't it, going down to football?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, obviously, I go to Spurs with my dad, and that feeling of going to football with like my dad, it's our like time together. It's that father-son sort of thing, and we absolutely love it. And gone to most of the Spurs games, has to be said, over the last sort of few years. We started going a bit more regularly when we were actually all right. It's just a shame we've fallen off a cliff ever since, really. But we'll still be there. We'll still turn up every week, and still try and support the team and the club as best as we can. So lovely with your games, family affair, by the sounds of it. Are there any sort of match day rituals or superstitions? I've heard people before with lucky socks, lucky pants, lucky tops, scarf, you name it. Do you have anything like that?
So I didn't have any lucky superstitions, I think, because everything we tried, QPR ended up losing. So I was like, there's no point, is there? But what there is, I don't know if it's still there, but on the corner of QPR, there is a banging fish and chip shop. It's right next to the pub that's home fans only pub, and then we used to go and have a fish and chips, and then walk round to LSE Road. So that was our sort of a weird match day ritual, and then a beer after somewhere. But yeah, superstitious, not at all. Lucky pants, we lost, got threw those out. Lucky shirt, threw those out, lost. Scarf, threw those out, lost. So yeah, that was kind of a bit of a waste of a time.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, because I know you as a player, and I don't think you were one really for superstitions as a player, to be fair, if my memory serves me right. But just wondered if it was maybe as a fan you might have had a little something.
No, I guess again as a player, everything I tried we lost or I didn't play very well, so it was it was a waste of time.
No, but I have to say though, Lovey, excellent DJ when it comes to the tunes in the changing room. So yeah, I have to say, decent DJ. Right, Lovey, on to the best game then as a QPR fan that you've been to, or that you've seen perhaps on TV.
So I think there's two games that stick out. Obviously, the first one, I didn't get tickets to the playoff final, and it's really, really bad that I didn't, because I'm not a fan. Big moment, but that was obviously Bobby Zamora scoring that winner was unreal. Considering we got passed off the park for 89 minutes by Derby, that was incredible. I think we went to watch in the Warnock. In the Warnock season, when we went up, we beat Leicester 2-1 at home, and I think Ishmael Miller scored the winner. And that was kind of like, I remember that being quite a big moment, thinking, we're almost there, or the belief of we can actually go and win this league. So that was pretty cool when it being in the ground. But like I said, on the telly, it has to be the Zamora, the moment. I watched it. I think we had like a family barbecue and stuff, and I can't even remember what happened when he scored. It was just chaotic. So I can only imagine what it was like sitting in Wembley, being crazy. So yeah, but what a moment! What a moment that was for us, little old QPR.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can still hear the Bill Leslie commentary and the shout of Zamora and whatnot, and stuff like that. Yeah, I remember that particular game really, really well. And like you say, you got absolutely popped off the park for 89 minutes. But I guess that's football. It's why we love it, and it's those fine margins that define big moments and big games. I don't think Richard Keogh's ever really, bless him, recovered.
No, and to be fair, I don't think the QPR fans have ever let him. But I think that the unsung hero from that game was Gary O'Neill smashing Vidra, I think, as he went through 1-on-1 and took the red card. Because I think if he, we'd have lost 3 or 4-0 then, because they were flying. So people obviously remember the Zamora goal, but I think O'Neill smashing or getting sent off and getting sent off. So and then we doing them on the counter attack was a beautiful championship moment.
Yeah, it felt like peak and typical championship as well, because that league is unbelievable. I've never seen a league like it where you're playing sort of someone in the bottom 3 and all of a sudden they put a run together of a couple of games and the next thing you know they're like 2 points outside the playoffs. I mean, look at Middlesbrough this season. When Carrick took over, they were in the bottom 3 and now they're well within the playoffs, and look like they could even go up.
Yeah, and to be fair, it does go the other way as well. Look at us; we were top in October, and now we're scrapping to stay in the division. So I often say to my mates who are Arsenal, Tottenham, and Man United fans, it's the best league in the world. They don't believe me, but honestly, it's the best league in the world. It's unrivaled in the entertainment, and I mean the officiating is awful, but you kind of like it, and I don't want the VAR to come in because I think it will ruin the fun. The fun in the league. But yeah, it's I love it. I absolutely adore it.
I didn't want to mention that you were high flying at the start of the season, just in case. I wanted to keep you on side early doors.
Yeah, someone will question saying, what do you think of the start and where we are now? So I thought we'll just clear it up and get it out of the way.
Brilliant. And lovely. We're going to go from best to worst game that you've witnessed as a QPR fan. There might be a few in there, but is there one that sort of springs to mind?
I remember going to Leicester away the season before we won the league with Warnock. We lost, I think, 4-0, and we got absolutely battered. That was pretty honking. I've been to Coventry. We went to Coventry as well and lost there, and it was cold, bitterly cold day. But yeah, I think the Leicester one was painful, and we sat, obviously the King Power was great, but we sat literally right next to the home fans that were just giving us stick all day. So that's probably the worst game I think I've been to. And then any other game under Mark Hughes when we didn't win a game for 25 games in the Premier League is probably up there as well. But I've chosen to forget that season.
Yeah, no, don't blame you. And I was at the King Power a couple of weeks ago with Spurs when we got beat 4-1, and that was a bit of a tanking. But then I've been on the other side where we have won at the King Power. I wasn't there for the Berg win, the late winners, but I think we'd won. I want to say like 3-2, something like that, or 3-0. When Son and Dele scored, and Son scored an absolute worldie off his left peg, and I think that was around Christmas time. So. Yeah, no, it's I've seen sort of both sides of it, especially at the KP in particular. Right, lovely. Next question on the agenda is your favourite QPR player of all time. I have a funny feeling I may know the answer to this, but then you might throw me a curveball and surprise me.
Yeah, you know what? There's it has. I'll tell you, it has to be Adele, right? He's the best footballer. He's the best footballer I've ever seen live. Like the things he could do with a football were unbelievable. We've had, QPR. There's so many players that I've thought, you kind of fall in love with, don't you, as a fan? Obviously Ainsworth, Akos Bazaki was a midfielder that we had. And then I remember I think he had 2 or 3 really bad knee injuries, and he to quote Harry Redknapp, he was top drawer. He honestly, he was so good, but once he'd done his second ACL, he wasn't the same player. He fall in the midfielder that we had under Warnock as well. He was unbelievably good. Another one who did his ACL, and he probably could have played at the top level, but Mr. Tarat was unbelievably talented. Like when you know what it's like when you see someone and you just think, how good are you? He'd do things that you'd never expect. Nutmeg 4 players on the halfway line, and you think, yeah, we've got a player here. The only regret with him is that he didn't quite have the mentality and the dedication to play at the top level, because I'm certain he could have played for a Barcelona and Real Madrid. I'm sure of it. He had all the ability in the world. But yeah, he was. Every time I look at him, I just smile and I miss him because he was phenomenal, a phenomenal player.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, obviously come from Spurs, didn't he, Adele? And having seen him a few times, you're just thinking, wow, this kid is ridiculous. Like the ability that he does. Obviously, there's the nutmeg against Derby, I believe, where he's sort of like deep inside his own half, and he's just absolutely mugged the Derby player off, and things like that. And yeah, I mean, that season, the Warnock season in the Championship, he was unbelievable. And how I've seen some people with their greatest team of the EFL era, and he doesn't get a look in. And he was probably the best, and not only in that time, but I think for a lot of the time that we've seen in the Championship, just that ability, just that free nature to just kind of, I'm just going to do it, and I don't care if it comes off, if it doesn't, I'm just going to do it anyway. The amount of people he mugged off though that year was frightening. I didn't think it was possible to do that in the Championship at that time either.
No, and I think people judge him because he didn't particularly do it in the Premier League as much in the Championship. Obviously, the step up was massive, but for me, he's the best player ever to play in that league. Like he was unbelievably good. Like his vision, his passing, he'd stick one top bins 30 yards and look like he was just me and you playing on a Saturday afternoon. Like it was literally that easy, that good. His highlight reels are unbelievable, because I think he scored a goal against Preston where he got it on the halfway line, beat 4 men, and just stuck it top corner for about 35 yards out, and he was like, yeah, that was all right, wasn't it? And it's like phenomenal, and he doesn't get the credit he deserves, I think, because that season Warnock got out of him, it made him captain. He managed him so well, and boy did we reap the rewards of him.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the goal against Swansea where he mugs off Joe Allen, and I think Joe Allen's still looking for him, to be fair. I think he got left at Loftus Road. And yeah, I think he then does another one and then just bends it. I think Doris de Vries was in goal and he just gets a hand to it, but you're just thinking, it's just absolutely outrageous. Like there's just nothing going on in the game, and he just decides to flick a switch and, like I say, mug off a couple of players and then stick one past the goalie.
Yeah, and I think the best highlight, or the best thing I've ever seen him do, obviously he scored loads of goals. There was one goal I think Wayne Routledge scored against Coventry, and Adele put this outside of the boot pass, and no one could see that pass coming. And if De Bruyne had done that today, everyone would be saying how good it is. Like, I can't tell you how good that pass is. It was kind of like I don't know how he did it. Curled it around 3 defenders, and Routledge took it in one touch and scored. But the technique on him was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, definitely, and yeah, I'm like you. I wish the Premier League in particular would have seen a little bit more of Adele's ability. I think I was at a European game with my dad. I think Spurs were playing PSV, and basically he's come off the bench, and you just hear this random guy that was sort of sitting in and around me and my dad, and you just hear him shout like, "Go on, the secret weapon!" But then every time he was on about Adele, but then like every time he got the ball, it was like, "Right, go on, the secret weapon, work your magic, go on." And I mean, at that time he was like 19, 20 years of age, and just sort of trying to make his way like within the game. But then I think definitely QPR saw the best of him for those sort of couple of seasons that he was with you guys.
Yeah, and he's one of those players, that every time he gets the ball, the crowd sort of, you can sense it, and everyone kind of goes, "Oh, what's he going to do?" And I don't think as a fan you get to see those players very often. So when they do, you kind of, I mean, I'd relive that season tomorrow. It was a hell of a season, but yeah, I could talk all night about him because he's QPR royalty.
Yes, yeah, and from your GOAT, your greatest of all time in Adele, to wrap, to Lovey, who's the current favourite player for you in this QPR team? It might be a bit difficult given the slide that you're on at the minute, but if you could maybe pick one, who would it be and why?
It's really difficult because I think if you'd have asked me that in October, I could have reeled out 3 or 4 names. I think Elias Chair, I think, is a top player. I think he's a little bit like Adele, not as good, obviously, but he works hard. I think he really does work hard. He does carry the team, and I think he's noticeable once he doesn't play. The gap we have, I think it'd be between him and Chris Willock. I think Chris again he was like Adele, like he was last year. He was unbelievable. We signed him I think we signed him for 750k. Warburton got unbelievable out of him. Michael Beale turned him into a top player. And there's another one that's struggled with injuries this year, but another one that can make games, make magic happen, score unbelievable goals, works hard, carries the ball, and again, when he's not in the team, you struggle. So you're probably Willock or Chair, I think. As next defender, I kind of want to pick one, a defender, but there's none that I really like. So we'll go Chris Willock, I think.
Yeah, interesting that an ex-defender's gone for players that he hates playing against.
Yeah,
the small, tricky ones that he can't get near.
Yeah, that you try and kick and they just miss, and you keep kicking them and you keep missing. So yeah, I think I'll go Chris Willock. Another one. I think his contract runs out in the summer, so I don't think he'll be here long. I can't see him staying, but yeah, we'll go Chris Willock, I think.
Yeah, not a bad player. And for those that don't know, his sort of journey obviously come through at Arsenal, didn't he? And then had a spell at Benfica with Adele. QPR picked him up for sort of next to nothing, really, in today's market.
Yeah, and I think it's a real shame because I think if he'd stayed fit, he probably would be like a 20-25 million pound player.
Yeah.
But he's just not. I think his hamstring is gone for the last couple of months. But obviously the contract situation. But yeah, I think when he's on his day, he's as good as anyone in that league.
Yeah, no, he's a good player, to be fair, and one I used to try and sign a few times on Football Manager way back when. Can't really do it so much now, but yeah, he was one that I used to try and sign as often as I could. Lovely, and I know you mentioned the Zamora. Would you say that is your most memorable moment being a QPR fan, or are there any others that stick out for you?
Yeah, the Zamora one's massive. Obviously, it's probably our most famous goal, apart from the Aguero goal that was against us. But obviously, that's massive. I probably the whole 2010-11 season with Warnock is up there. And I think what else sticks out is the year after when we were in the Premier League. I think we beat Tottenham and Arsenal at home to stay up. Like we went on a bit of a run. I think we beat them both 1-0. I remember those being quite big moments. And obviously when we beat Liverpool 3-2 at home, and they were 2-0 up with about 10 minutes to go, and somehow we managed to sneak a 3-2 win. That was massive. I remember, beating Liverpool was always nice, wasn't it? Especially a little club, you can give your Liverpool fans stick. So, yeah, they're probably the ones. But has to be Zamora. It has to be Zamora. It has to be.
Yeah, no, and yeah, thanks for referencing the fact you beat us. But I think I remember that season that you came up, and you played us at White Hart Lane, so at the old stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had a few injuries. I think Bale scored that in that particular one, but we had a few injuries. But I remember coming home and then seeing Warnock's press conference, like his pre-match news conference beforehand, and he was saying about the fact that we had a few injuries, and he's turned around and said, "Yeah, I wish we had them injuries." And then I think afterwards they were saying about obviously Bale's goal, and he said, "Yeah, I was just on the side and I just found myself clapping along with the rest of the Spurs fans." He said it was some goal. But yeah, I think that particular time, I think for QPR was a really interesting one because I think obviously got promoted, having won the league. Adele had ripped it up the year before, and then you had one sort of owners, and then towards the end of the window, Tony Fernandez, I believe, came in, and it all seemed to just go completely in a different direction. You had the likes of Joey Barton rocking up, Anton Ferdinand, players like that coming through the door.
Yeah, it was really different. Obviously, Warnock got sacked, I think, before December or January.
Yeah.
And obviously we appointed Mark Hughes, which, looking back, was an awful decision. Honestly, it was probably the moment where if we hadn't have sacked him and stuck with Warnock for the year, we probably wouldn't have been in this position now. Because obviously what you've got to remember is the financial fair play, or the money we spent, the relegation, the Redknapp era, so the Barton, like you said. So yeah, it wasn't particularly great. I think I wish we'd have stuck with Warnock for another year. He deserved to see out the whole year, in my opinion. But I think Fernandez chased that dream of Premier League and the Premier League dream of spending money and being I think, didn't he come out and say something about the Champions League, which is really, really embarrassing?
Most owners do, to be fair. It's Champions League within an X amount of seasons.
Yeah,
it's usually between sort of 5 and 10, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like it's just taken us 15 years to get out of the league, mate. We're not going to go for the Champions League. We want to finish 16th for the next 10 and just stay afloat. So yeah, the owners, eh?
Who'd have them? He'd have them, honestly. So I know you just mentioned the Mark Hughes era there, and it being a real sort of low point. Being a QPR fan, was that as low as it's got for you, or has it been worse?
No, I think it was. I think it was low. That was really low. I think it was so low because the whole world was talking about how much money we'd spent. We stayed up basically because Bolton were terrible, not because and that obviously the whole Aguero goal. We were already safe at that point, but we didn't know about it. And then you had Mark Hughes in his interview saying, "We'll never be in this position again as long as I'm QPR manager." Goes and spends X amount of money on Julius Caesar. Okay, excellent, brilliant, thank you. Why are you playing for my club? Where's Paddy Kenny gone? But that's where it was, and then it was a complete contrast to the club. We had Sean Derry, Clint Hill, people that the fans wanted to see because they gave everything, to people that are on massive amounts of money, don't care about the club, and ultimately ended up getting relegated, and then Redknapp coming in, spending more money, getting relegated, and then that's where we are today. So yeah, I remember the Mark Hughes era being horrendous. I don't think we won a game for 20 games or something like that. I think we've still got that record.
It was a really long run, and then I think it was even longer. Sorry to rub it in, but it was even longer away from home. But then I remember an away win at Sunderland, and yeah, I think that was like the first sort of away win or one of the first wins that QPR had actually got for a really, really long time.
Yeah, I can't remember who was it recently that broke our record. I remember that because I was watching it on Match of Day, and they were saying, they've now broken QPR's record of longest without a win in the Premier League. And I thought, oh, Christ, people won't talk about us now. It'll be someone else. I can't remember who it was. It was a couple of years ago. But yeah, it was sort of every time a promoted team hadn't won in 10 games, they're approaching QPR's record. It's like
I want to say off the top of my head, Sheffield United, because I know they went a really, really long time. I think that was like the COVID. I want to call it the COVID season.
Was that after Wilder left?
I think it was that season where he got the sack. But yeah, I know obviously they took a real hit in their second season. But no, that was interesting, lovely, to be fair, because that is the first time I've ever heard somebody that would rather Paddy Kenny in net for their team over some Julio Cesar who has won the Champions League, by the way.
And by the way, he was unbelievable for us. Like we would have lost the games 10-0 for him. That shows you how bad we were.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable. But it was such a contrast from where we were to where to. I mean, Paddy Kenny's a lad, isn't he? He's on Twitter now, he gives Man United fans stick, doesn't he, on Twitter? I mean, what some sort of chap he is.
Yeah. But that is, like I say, that is the first time I've heard somebody go Paddy Kenny, who, to be fair, has had a brilliant career, but EFL journeyman is putting it mildly for him, over a World Cup winning goalkeeper in Julio Cesar and somebody who's won the Champions League. Mental.
I'd have him. Yep, some lad.
Mental. Right, lovely. Best manager then in your lifetime supporting QPR?
We've had legends. Holloway was what he did for us back in the day was unbelievable. It has to be Neil. I'm sorry. I'm devoted to that man. It has to be him. I think I don't think people give him enough credit for the job he did at QPR. He took us over when we were in the similar position where we are now, 18th, and sort of looking over our shoulder. Brought people in like Clint Hill, Sean Derry, Adel Tarat, and absolutely walked the league. We walked that league pretty much. They even tried to give us a point deduction, to stop us, and we didn't. So, yeah, it has to be Neil Warnock, and I think he's had a couple of stints as caretaker manager since then. But yeah, I love the bloke, and even more so when he took over Huddersfield recently, and he said, there's only 3 clubs I love at QPR, Cardiff, and Huddersfield, and I was just like, Neil, stop it! What are you doing to me? Yeah, he was unbelievable, and I think, and again, another manager who's had a wonderful career, and I don't think people give him credit for what he's done because he has been unbelievable, but people probably don't give him credit because he's never kept a club up in the Premier League. That's probably his downfall, isn't it? But who cares about staying up once you get there? And you give us you give us fans memories that will last a lifetime. So it has to be Neil.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh no, I'm a massive fan of Neil Warnock as well. I think if you want somebody to eventually get you out of the Championship, it's a no-brainer. You get him in, and he will get results. He just finds a way of playing, gets players playing, he gets them all on side, and I think his track record speaks for itself. I think he's up there in terms of one of the managers that's got probably some of the most promotions out of the Championship and into the Premier League. But yeah, I don't feel like he's ever really got a fair crack of the whip within the Premier League once he's done all the hard work of getting a club out of the sticky situation and getting them up. Yeah,
and he never really lasted like till January either at clubs. When he went to Palace, he got Palace promoted, didn't he? Did he get Palace promoted? I think he did. He got sacked way earlier than he perhaps should have done, and the same with us. I'd like to see him have a January transfer window in the Premier League to see what he can do. Probably still sign Paddy Kenny, to be fair, but but like you said, he's never had a crack at the whip.
Yeah.
But that's football, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I think it was interesting to see him because I watched the 4-year plan on, I believe it was Amazon Prime. That was an interesting insight into the behind the scenes nature of Queen's Park Rangers, and I think he come across ridiculously well. And I remember him sort of sitting down with one of the owners and going, "Look, this is what I need to get out of the division." Mm-hmm. And I mean, the names he was mentioning weren't glamour names. No. They're not ones to get fans off the edge of their seats, but they were, when I was looking at it and I'm going, he really wanted like this particular player. Like he could have had someone maybe on loan from a Premier League club, a bit of a young talent coming through and things like that, but he was like, no, these are the 3 that I want. If you go and get me them, we'll win the league. And I think it was quite interesting actually to see him in that kind of way with an owner, and I think he managed to get his own way in the end, and obviously you guys went up. Yeah,
he signed players like Clint Hill and Sean Derry, and when we signed them, I was like, what are we signing these for? Who's Clint Hill? But 10 years later, they're legends. They're legends in our club. I mean, Clint Hill, some player, people don't give him credit, but sort of player you want run through brick walls for you, and obviously Neil Warnock needed that to build a strong foundation so he can go and let Adele do what he needed to do. So yeah, he's a genius.
Yeah, so lovely then. From the best in the man, the myth, the legend that is Neil Warnock to the worst, where I have a feeling I know the answer to this one because you may have mentioned him once or twice.
Do you know what? So I was thinking about this. We've had some shockers. So if you think of like Paul Hart, Ian Dowie, Paulo Sousa, I think he was about 14 games. He was awful. Yeah, it has to be Mark Hughes. I'm sorry. It has to be. For everything that he did to us. For Fernandes giving him a free checkbook and signing random Champions League winners from 2009, to making ridiculous comments about as long as I'm in charge, we won't do it again. I remember he came out in an interview after he'd been obviously sat by us, and he said when he got interviewed for QPR, QPR didn't interview him. He interviewed QPR, and I'm like, what a strange thing to say. But I've read like podcasts, read interviews and listened to podcasts, and like Clint Hill says like he didn't speak to him at all. Like he really doesn't rate him at all. Like they never did defensive work in training. I mean, shock. I could have told you that myself. But yeah, I don't think he's a nice bloke, and he certainly didn't do well for us. And he's now managing Bradford, I think, which is random. Yeah. So yeah, all the best to him.
It's not like you're bitter or anything.
No, not at all. No, I've let it go.
Right then, lovely. Apart from Loftus Road, is there any ground that you've been to that has perhaps been your favourite?
So the King Power is nice. I think people it goes under the radar again a little bit, but I think it's a proper nice little ground. I think the atmosphere is decent. Been to Old Trafford, sat in the home end, watching QPR lose, which was fun. But the best ground I've been to is by far the new ground at Spurs. My missus we went to a pre-season friendly, I think, the year Poch got sacked, and I think Conte was the manager of Inter Milan.
Yeah.
And I think they came for a pre-season friendly, and the ground is phenomenal. And it was only half full, and the noise was deafening. So I can imagine when it's full Champions League nights, I bet it's insane. The beer that pours itself was a massive highlight for me. But yeah, the Tottenham Hearts, the ground is just incredible. It's mad.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, obviously, I'm fortunate enough to go there near enough every other week. And yeah, like you say, when it is full, and obviously, like last season, North London derby atmosphere, unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. And I'm going even back to the old ground, and when I've been to North London derbies there, and things like that. The Champions League games against City and Ajax in particular, the ground was just absolutely bouncing. Yeah. And it is built for those big occasions. It's just a shame that we haven't had many since we moved in, and it's built for Champions League football. It's built for a Champions League final, really, as well. And yeah, I count myself lucky and fortunate that I get to go there, every week. And it's just a shame we haven't got a good, half decent product on the pitch, because the product off the pitch is
it's insane. It's like an American NFL ground, isn't it? That's how it's big. It's like a bowl. The atmosphere is. Yeah, like I said, the atmosphere is magic. When we went there and it was half full, and am I right in saying that they've built it so the noise doesn't lose the ground? The noise from the stands sort of stays in the ground. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so the noise actually stays in, whereas a lot of grounds the noise kind of filters out. Whereas it's been designed where it's kept in, and I think that's why it can be so deafening at times. It doesn't need to necessarily feel 100% full. I've been to women's North London derby game. I think there was about 40,000 in there. So again, not full to capacity, but even the noise coming out of that for that particular game was wicked. To be fair, so like I say, I've count myself really, really fortunate that I get to go as often as I do. Right, lovely. From the favourite, which is the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm calling it the home of football. Forget Wembley. To your least favourite, where you go in, get me out of this dive ASAP.
Do you know what? The Rico's not a great away day.
Okay.
I think it's because it's one of the. I've got a bit of a pet hate with new stadiums that are like a bowl that are really empty. Like the MK Don Stadium's awful, isn't it? I think because there's not many people there, and it's like a bowl that's a bit soulless. The worst away day I've been to QPR is Scunthorpe. There, it's like in the middle of like an industrial estate. Yeah, it's an awful place. It's like, yeah, I think I can't even describe. It was that bad. We won 1-0, but yeah, I was thinking, get me out of this crap hole and get me back to QPR, which is QPR in comparison was like Wembley. It was unbelievable, and our ground's really not great either. So yeah, Scunthorpe's pretty terrible, mate.
Yeah, although saying that, it does look quite. It looks like it has the potential to be a half little decent away day, but I'm guessing I'm looking at that through my, supporting a Premier League team and tinted glasses and going, I quite fancy a little bit to rough it for a little bit.
Yeah, have you been to did you go to the Russian Nem Park? Did you ever go to Nem Park?
I played at a tournament at Nem Park.
So they had the really big stand, didn't they, where the away fans were, and then they had the 3 smaller stands. It was just like 4 really small stands.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's very. I don't think it gets full. I don't know what the fan base is in Scunthorpe, but yeah, it's like a rundown version of Nem Park.
Right.
Without the big stand. So
right. Okay.
So
I have to say though, for that particular tournament, I was absolutely buzzing because it was like Football League club, and we got to go in the changing rooms and everything like that. And I was like, right, I've made it here. And then, you're looking into the stand and you're seeing like friends and family there that had come for the tournament and stuff like that. So that was quite a good little tournament. And then I think we did one indoors. They had like a indoor venue. Like, well, I want to say sports hall, but it was a bit more than the sports hall. But that was a good tournament as well because you had a line going across the sort of perimeter, and it was like that was the cutoff because it couldn't go over head height.
Oh right,
that line was the cutoff, which was quite good. Although it was really annoying when you'd go to have a shot and the ball would spin off a couple of mats that they put down for the keepers
and shoot up.
Yeah, really, really annoying. But like I say, throw back to my playing days here in Milton Keynes and Dele Alli country and whatnot, going over to Rushden and things like that. Right, lovely. What final question from me? What are your hopes for this season in particular? Obviously, I know QPR's league position is not perhaps where you would want it to be, but not only your hopes for this season, but then for next season as well.
So yeah, this year we have to stay up. It's as simple as that. We have to find a way to stay up. I think we're 6 points off the relegation zone. I think, and we've got Wigan next. So we've played Blackpool, Birmingham, and Wigan, and we haven't lost any of them. We haven't won any of them yet. So we have to just one more win. I think gets us to 45 points, and it should be enough. Really, really, I don't know what the word is. Horribly, selfishly, I saw Reading are going to get a 6 point deduction, and I was really happy if it takes them below us. And I thought, right, that's another team that could get dragged into it. Obviously, not nice for them as a club because obviously they're going through it a little bit. But for us, it's kind of like, well, that's another club that potentially could take our spot. We have to stay up, mate. That's as simple as that. Next year, we just need to give Ainsworth a little bit of time to rebuild, get some players in that he wants. I think there might be a bit of a rebuild. I think that the players at QPR aren't particularly mentally strong, I would say, is a nice way of saying it. I think Ainsworth called them fragile in the week. So yeah, stay up and then hopefully progress at some point next year and let Ainsworth build. But I think we might be in this position for the next couple of years. I think it is worrying. It is, if I'm honest. We've sort of flirted with going down to League One for a couple of years, and then sort of managed to get out of it. So I hope we continue to stay as a Championship side. Yeah, what can you say? And if you'd have said that to me in October when we were top of the league, I'd have. I don't know what you're talking about. We'll be fourth then, or we'd have been promoted. We'd have won the league by then.
You guys were doing up Burnley statistics and numbers at the start of the season.
We were flying.
Just a quick one on Ainsworth, obviously a club legend that's come back and taken over. Do you see any sort of change in philosophy or change of style of play? Obviously at Wickham it was very direct and very much playing the opposition half, get the ball up to the two big lads up top and we'll play from there. Or do you think he's going to maybe adapt and change and play a little bit more possession based?
Yes, I don't think he'll change. I think and this is one of the criticisms mainly from QPR fans about the Ainsworth appointment, right? So we've had Warburton, who got the ball down, played progressive football. Beale as well, to a certain degree, played really nice football. Critchley a little bit more direct, but not totally direct. Where I think the feeling is that the club have panicked a little bit with Ainsworth and tried to get someone in purely to stay up. Ultimately, that does mean that we probably won't play the nicer style of football. But that nicer style of football has had us 1 win in 20. So if Ainsworth makes us hard to beat and is a little bit more direct and we win games, I'm all for it. So I think there'll be a big change. I think there'll be a big change of personnel because I think he'll need to get players in that are prepared to do the nasty stuff that our players don't want to do or can't do because they're used to playing one way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's going to be a massive summer for us, which is odd because we need to give him money to get players in, but we haven't got money. So I suspect a lot of our bigger, better players will go sell, get some cash in and do it that way. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer to put it mildly. Yeah,
no, I think quite a few clubs are in for an interesting summer. I think it just screams like rebuild for a lot of clubs. But no, hopefully QPR stay up for you and you can remain a championship club. And then hopefully you can try and build and stay sort of relatively mid-table for perhaps a couple of seasons and then push back up again into the Prem sometime soon.
Yeah, I think the Prem is a long dream. I think yeah, we need to stay in the Championship, as simple as that. Ultimately, if you look at our outlay, we're a League One side in terms of ground, in terms of how much money we spend. So we are kind of punching above our weight a little bit. Particularly if you think of some of the clubs in League One, Sheffield Wednesdays, the Ipswiches, Derby, Bolton. Arguably they are bigger than us. So in that way we are essentially a League One club playing in the Championship. But we are where we are because we've been so badly managed for the last 10 years. There's no dressing that up. So yeah, hopefully we can stay up. If not, hopefully a couple more local away days for me in League One.
Brilliant. And lovely, just before we go, obviously it's been brilliant to not only catch up with you but have you on with us tonight. Just tell everybody that is watching and that we'll catch up with this fantastic podcast episode where they can find you.
So I am on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I think my name's KrisLove_5, I think, on Instagram and Twitter. Yeah, feel free. I'm always happy to join and have new followers. Warning, it does get a bit sweary at 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, especially if QPR lose. So, but yeah, no, thank you for having me, mate. It's been great to catch up.
That's all right, not a problem. Take care, and we will see you soon.
Yep, catch up, mate. Catch up for a beer soon.
Cheers, bye.
Yeah, see you later, mate.